Welcome to A Million Ways to Live. I'm Chris. I'm here as always with my co-host Cassie. We're going to dive into, explore, dissect a million different ways to live a good life. It should be fun. The show and life, they should both be fun. Good morning, Cassie.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Super.
Awesome.
But you can hear in my voice, like we were just talking, that...
Party animal?
Yeah. Hardcore local music festival slash...
High school reunion.
Whoop,
whoop.
Yeah. We saw Sister Hazel.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible.
Chris.
They were. I'm sorry.
Tonic.
It was like
much better.
90s revival music festival, which, you know, it's nice to have a city that has cool music festivals like
For
that.
Sure.
So
yeah,
it was fun. But yeah, we're talking over top of the music all night, so forgive my voice. Today we are talking about the exciting world of minimalism.
Yeah.
I think we need a lot of minimalism in our life. I think a lot of people need a lot of
I agree.
minimalism. Is that an oxymoron? A lot of minimalism?
A lot of minimalism. Yes, I agree. And I've been like dying to talk to you about it all week, but
Really?
We wait till we record.
So, what is minimalism? Cassie?
You always give me these definitions that I have to remember off the top of my head.
Well, the point is to see what definition has emerged from your understanding. You know, I'm not looking for you to recite the dictionary definition of minimalism. What is minimalism to you?
To me, it is living with the things you need and not a lot of excess.
And that the things. So is that physical things?
Yeah. It's mostly physical things, but also I'm sure we'll get into it's a lot of aspirations for things like having expensive vacations and not just things, but also it can be like the wanting of more and more experiences and climbing the corporate ladder. Like that gets into it a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, someone says minimalism, what most people think of is decluttering the house.
Yeah.
That is where everybody goes. 99% of people just decide or think of, okay, what stuff in my house
can I get rid of?
Mm-hmm. That's
the beginning.
entire idea of minimalism to most people. Yeah. But I think to a true minimalist, it's more of a life philosophy than a approach to decluttering.
Right.
And that's the way I wanted to dissect it today, is looking at minimalism as a mindset to life or a life philosophy.
A way to live.
A way to live. And is it a good way to live or a bad way to live? Sure. And so the people that come up the most are the minimalists. It's a duo of, I don't know what you call them, I guess minimalist influencers. They do podcasts, they do movies, they do books. Mm-hmm. And anyone that tries to do some research on minimalists or minimalism encounters the minimalists often. Mm-hmm. I mean, you Google search it, they're
synonymous with.
Yeah. And so I went to them since they're, I guess, the most famous minimalists, at least contemporary minimalists, to find out what their definition of minimalism was. Okay. And first of all, they seem like great guys. They seem like two good dudes, generally positive. They try so hard to be deep that it's like a little exhausting. Like their whole thing is put it in a pithy sentence. Yeah. They say that over and over again, and I just hate that word pithy.
Yeah.
But
they say it a lot.
They like to encapsulate some idea that they're talking about for an hour into a pithy sentence so they can tweet it out. And often they boil down this grand idea that they're discussing into like this really heartfelt, deep statement that
maybe doesn't need to be that deep.
Right. They just take it a little too, they try too hard to put it in a philosophical statement.
Okay.
And they often, I think that same losing the forest for the trees thing happens in some of their articles. So the article that I found, What is Minimalism? I read the whole thing, and at no point does it say what minimalism is. It says like minimalism can do this for you, and minimalism, I hate the word. Minimalism does this for you, and it can do that for you. But at no point in the article does it say, the title of the article is What is Minimalism? But at no point in the article does it say what minimalism is. Gotcha. However, it links to another article where they do define minimalism. I just thought it was quite funny that you had to click a link to a different article in the article that was titled What is Minimalism to actually find their definition of minimalism.
I'm dying to find out what
they
it
have
is.
a good definition.
Tell us.
So it's minimalism is a lifestyle that helps people question what things add value to their lives.
Okay.
I think that's a good definition. It was just a lot of
to get to that one sentence definition.
It wasn't in the obvious place. The article titled What is Minimalism? So, yes, minimalism is a lifestyle that helps people question what things add value to their lives. And when it says what things, that doesn't, I don't think they mean literal physical objects. They're talking about
I think
relationships,
jobs,
hobbies, and physical things. So the philosophy of minimalism includes some basic tenets: intentionality, simplicity, and clarity. But then, it goes on to, it's not just about possessions. They clarify that it's about mental space, time, and emotional clutter.
I think that's a good place to kind of go from the promises that minimalism makes, like as far as how it will help your life. I think that's kind of a good place to start.
Well, let's start with the obvious, the house. So if I were to go grab the camera and give a tour of our house right now, would you be embarrassed by the amount of clutter in our house?
For sure.
And I just think forget being embarrassed by it. I'm sure most people have that, but it actually noticeably to me affects my mental state. Walking through a room that is just unorganized clutter. Some places with collections of stuff that is neatly organized on the wall. I don't walk into a busy room and just feel anxious or stress from too many objects in a room. I don't think I'm quite that sensitive, but when it's just so, take the kitchen, for example, there's so much stuff on the counter that you can't make a sandwich. There's so much stuff on the dining room table that once you make the sandwich, you got to clear 25 things to go eat the sandwich. So just the struggle that too much crap in your house causes with doing simple things. To do a simple thing, you have to make space for that simple thing before you could even begin. And that is a constant frustration for me.
Yeah.
So I think just that alone is a big benefit, just having less stuff to accumulate so that all of these little things that you do day to day don't require 10 extra steps to clear things out of the way.
I think I heard something along the lines of doing a big declutter minimalism goal can save you 7 to 10 hours a week of stuff like that, like clearing the space to make the sandwich, clearing the space to eat so it just can save you ultimately a lot of time if you have less stuff to deal with.
I believe that.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that and come up with 7 to 10 hours?
Right.
I don't know. But well, when we started just a minute ago and I said, I think we need some minimalism in our life, and I think most people do. The reason for that is you have to have that mentality to counteract the effort from everything else in the world that is saying get more, buy more, do more, more. Because we're a very normal example of the results of that. Amazon is one click buy this, one click buy that, putting things on a subscription and things just show up. Amazon boxes every day.
Yep.
If you don't control the inflow of stuff to your house, it just happens without a lot of effort. Our normal way of living involves a constant flow of new stuff into the house.
Yeah.
And so if we take a look at minimalism as how do we approach life, modern life with Amazon and the ease of access to anything you want, new things constantly, new iPhone just came out. Should we buy the new iPhone, or is our functioning iPhone 14 perfectly fine? Are you familiar with the term hyper-normalization?
Yes.
I think that applies to this situation because we're just so normalized to the disposable aspect of everything. Phone's a perfect example. My phone is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It is recording this podcast right now. But there's a new iPhone 15 with more storage and a better camera. And what else? I don't know. A different connection. I think they use USB now instead of Lightning. So is that a reason to trash or recycle or sell my phone to get a new one? If you took a minimalist approach to life, the answer would probably be no. So a lifestyle that helps people question what things add value to their life. The different areas of life to apply that and ask that question one is mental clutter. I found a statement that said a clutter-free environment won't do us any good if our mental lives are filled with distractions and clutter as well.
What are some examples of mental clutter if no one's really thought about what that means? I think for me, it's like to-do lists and activities and schedules, and like that's my mental clutter, is just the constant flow of things to do.
So how much of that is, well, I almost asked a different question, but are there any of those things that don't add value to your life?
Surely. I mean, but a lot of it's kids stuff. So, hopefully it adds value to their lives.
So the to-do lists, I guess you have to kind of go a layer back and say, okay, are the things that I have a list for, not necessarily the to-dos, but the things I'm doing things for, do those things add value to my life? And that's a hard question, I think, sometimes, because sometimes we do things hoping it adds value in the future.
Yeah.
Like these kid events that we want them to, or kid activities that we want them to learn a skill or have another opportunity to be social with other kids. I don't know. It's a hard question. Does it add value? So if you're looking at minimalism from a mental perspective, I don't know. The to-do list thing is hard. But
what other kinds of mental clutter would you?
Well, I think it goes, if we reference another episode, I feel like every episode is going to reference the Stoicism episode.
Oh, okay.
Because are you worrying about things that you have control over? So is the mental clutter, so in Stoicism, if someone's listening and hasn't listened to that episode, Stoicism has a practice of, or their core thing is worry about the things that you can control. Don't worry about the things that you can't control. Obviously, that's easier said than done. But if you look at it at that through the lens of minimalism and say, okay, am I cluttering my mind with the things that I can't control? Yeah. And if that is the case, then the minimalism decluttering of the mind is to let go of the things that you can't control, because if you're worrying about them and you have no control over them, then by that definition, they're not adding value to your life. They're only adding stress because you can't do anything about them.
Right.
Let them go. So I think that's the best way to look at the mental minimalism.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Digital minimalism is another thing that popped up a lot. And again, is very much needed.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like the 25 windows open all the time. Plus, just using your phone a lot. But I think that like when you look at your phone and you've got 100 apps and you're sorting through 100 apps to get to the one thing that you want, there's that just constant inflow of information too that causes clutter.
It causes mental clutter.
Mental clutter, yeah.
So digital
distraction.
Sources of mental clutter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, that's another problem in life. So when we start talking about minimalism, it quickly bubbles up that these things, like, it's not a secret that we're on our phones too much. It's not a secret that everybody has too much stuff in their house. I saw statistics about, like, I don't remember the number, but a certain ridiculous percentage of 2-car garages can't park 2 cars in that garage because they have stuff in half of it and they can't fit a second car in the 2-car garage.
Which we were guilty of for about a year until recently.
That we were. So we're talking about things that
everybody knows. Yeah.
Everyone's aware that, we have this smartphone addiction. Everyone's aware that we have way too much stuff and we're ordering too much stuff on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to blame Amazon for everything. But it's, again, so normal that it doesn't become an important thing to address for most people.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we do? Address it?
Address it, yeah.
So you're saying we can get rid of 90% of the stuff in the house?
Yeah, not. It all sounds good in theory. So let's talk about the downsides of minimalism, because it's not all just making your life easier. I mean, there are like hard decisions that have to be made, thinking about things that have sentimental value. And one of the things that I struggle with the most, and I listened to a few episodes on, is like the just in case. What if I need this eventually, or I'm going to keep this just in case? And I think that, it's just not that easy to get rid of everything. You've paid money for it. You have memories. There's a lot of emotional thought that goes into getting rid of things. And sometimes you might miss certain things, and they've got all kinds of rules around that. Like if it can be replaced for less than $20 and easily, then get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be fine just getting a dumpster and chucking it, right?
Most, no, I don't know. It's harder once you start, because we've gone through this before and tried to like do a hardcore declutter, and once you start going through things, it becomes harder, and you're like, well, don't want to let go of that. Let's put it in a pile over here, and I'll make that decision later.
Yeah.
And then later never comes, and it just gets moved around.
Right.
So it admittedly is harder once you get into it and actually start trying to get rid of stuff. But so the dark side of minimalism is what I had here.
Oh, the dark side.
The dark side of minimalism, there's a lot of minimalist influencers, and if you look through like their comments on their YouTube videos, it's always, oh, that's not very minimalist of you to have a third, collared work shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just constantly
Picking at 'em,
critiqued.
yeah.
More so than, whereas Stoicism, they said, well, don't tell people you practice Stoicism, otherwise you're going to be mocked. It didn't really make sense. Why?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a very mock-worthy thing. I don't know. Whereas minimalism, people absolutely do mock minimalists all the time and say, yes, that's not very minimalist of you, or they have this picture of where a minimalist has no more than 100 things in their life, and if they have one more than that, then they lose their minimalist status. But the other dark side of minimalism is getting way too obsessed with the minimalist aesthetic, and whereas everything is, very light and airy colored, so tans and browns and whites in your house, everything is like the color of this stool, this light, like natural wood tan.
And having like nothing on the shelves and like, well, very few things. Like,
and just getting way too caught up in making everything look minimalist to the point where people are spending outrageous sums of money to look minimalist, because all of this super nice, sleek, minimalist furniture, if you start Googling that, you're going to buy a minimalist looking ottoman for $5,000,
right.
Ridiculous sums of money. And so that's the other thing that people get caught up in, is looking minimalist, not really trying to ask the question, is this bringing me value?
Yeah.
They're asking, does this make me look minimalist?
So, yeah, using it as a status thing is silly.
But it's what people get caught up into, because that's in the same way that social media and phones and all of this digital clutter has infiltrated our lives. It's made us all obsessed with how we look.
Aesthetic, yeah.
Not just our physical bodies of how we look, but how our house looks and how we're perceived online. So if somebody starts doing YouTube videos about minimalism, then they got to look the part. They got to have the sleek $5,000 minimalist ottoman in the background of their photo or their video.
I was one of the podcasts that I listened to was Minimalists. Have you heard of that one?
No.
So it's a mom, and so talking about minimalism with a family and kids, that's different than a single person being a minimalist. And in one of those episodes, she actually touched on that, about how, having the perfect Instagram kitchen is not normal. Like, not everyone has that. And you don't have to aspire to that level of, everything being new and everything being fresh. And everyone has all these modern, redone, minimalist homes. And, she's more on the level of like, no, we've still got like our carpet from the 1990s, and it's okay. Like, you don't have to. This is coming from more the mindset of you don't have to spend. Like, a lot of the minimalist stuff that I listened to was how to truly live with less, like less money, less stuff, like not trying to be
the perfect looking minimalist.
Yeah, exactly. Or even not even trying to be the perfect looking minimalist, but just having that, coveted home with the white cabinets and the granite countertops and the open concept. Not everyone has that, and that's okay. And you don't have to aspire to have that. Like, living in a comfortable home and being thankful for kind of what you have and making the best of that is really the minimalist approach.
Yeah, I think maybe the definition that we started with, where it asks the question, what things add value to our lives, it's a dangerous question, because it's really easy to convince yourself that the granite countertops add value to your life.
Yeah.
Well, I cook a lot, and it would be nice to have those instead of my stained, laminated countertops that are old and stained. It's very easy to validate what you want to validate.
Yes.
And so you can twist your mind and convince yourself that granite countertops are going to add value to your life. And maybe they do, but how much value? And
for how long?
It's a hard question to answer in a way that prioritizes the minimalism philosophy. So it's hard.
It is.
So I think it's incredibly helpful, but how do you do it on a regular basis? And is it, whereas the minimalists, minimalism is their philosophy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a by itself philosophy. I think it's like an add-on. Like, you can be back to Stoicism, you can be a Stoic minimalist. But just to have a life philosophy of minimalism, because sometimes a little excess
is fun
or good or good for your brain or your mental state, or it's good for your kids. Is going to Disneyland minimalist?
probably not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, I think that's where it gets really tricky into defining, like, you know, the vacation aspect of it. Like, I don't know if that's something that you truly enjoy, like,
Then
and it does add value to your
See,
life.
that's the danger. Anything can be validated. You can pick something.
Well, like, I like to validate my
find
car.
a way. Yeah. Is your car minimalist?
No.
No.
But
a bicycle would be minimalist.
Yeah. But,
or wait, 2 wheels. So this is where you start getting into the criticism. Like, well, your bike has 2 wheels. Couldn't you do fine with something with 1 wheel?
That's crazy.
But that's the dark side of minimalism, where everybody gets picked apart for not being minimalist.
That's
enough.
just internet bullying.
It is.
We can't
absolutely
worry about
trolling.
those people.
So yes, it's a hard question to answer though, because first of all, we're not minimalists. So your car certainly isn't, as is 20 other things in the room that are not minimalist choices in our life. But it is probably a good, I don't know, kind of like spring cleaning, like not just decluttering, spring cleaning, but doing a seasonal like inventory of life and saying what things are
just taking
cluttering
up
up my life that are adding more negatives than positives that maybe I could clear out.
Yeah.
Like this one monthly responsibility that I have, could I let it go and maybe disappoint one person, but
it takes a whole weight off my shoulders, like not doing that one thing.
Yeah, and I'm struggling for a good example of that, but you get the point, I think.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about minimalism?
Yeah, I feel like we would be a little remiss if we didn't bring up like Marie Kondo and like the joy. She's very much decluttering, and I always think about clothes when I think about her, because it's the getting everything out of your closet, literally everything, putting it on the bed or on the floor and looking at each item and deciding if it brings you joy. So does it add value? Does it bring you joy? How do you want to ask the question? And getting rid of everything that doesn't spark joy.
Yeah, it's saying is spark
which I've
joy.
tried.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same question with different words.
Yes.
Spark joy or add value.
Yeah.
Maybe can be perceived different, but maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a better version of the question: is spark joy? You know,
but I mean,
again,
do your underwear spark joy?
Of course not. But
but do you need them?
They add value.
They add value. Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. Maybe you need like 4 questions.
Yeah.
Spark joy, add value, solve a problem. I don't know. Bring more positive outcomes in life than negative outcomes in life.
Yeah.
Minimalism is difficult, I think.
It is tough, but I think everyone should do a little deeper dive into it to see if there's elements of it that you can take and apply to your life to make things easier. Because do I want to become hardcore minimalist like the 2 guys? No, probably not. But I think, kind of like when you get a raise and you make more money, you spend more money. Like trying to kind of look at the things you're buying and doing and saying, do I really need that? Like instead of clicking the Amazon buy, it just makes you take a second and do I need to bring more stuff into my house? And from minimalism, one thing that I've decided is if I get a new pair of jeans, I'm going to get rid of at least 2. Like kind of the one in, one out.
A lot of rules like that. 1 in, 1 out. Don't buy anything, the day that you decide you want the thing. Wait a week. And then if you still want it in a week, get the thing.
Yeah.
But that gives you time for the excitement to dwindle that might have clouded your logical thinking.
Yeah.
And then you can make a less emotional purchasing decision. So there's a lot of those little rules, but it requires some dedication to like learn and enact and keep those rules top of mind. Because great, we can think about all those rules today and for the next week.
Since we've been talking about it, yeah.
But then in a month, when life is being life and we're in the thick of it, you're not going to think of that rule when you're on Amazon. You can push a button and move on to the next thing. Life is complex and busy, and it's hard. And maybe that seems, because the idea of minimalism, again, is as simple as decluttering to most people when you say it. So it probably sounds ridiculous to say that minimalism is kind of hard to think about, but when you dive into it and you try to apply minimalism to all these different areas of life, your home for decluttering, of course, clothes, digital minimalism, your relationships are the relationships that are just have run their course, and it's an old friend that is, I don't know, more work than pleasure anymore. Is that something you let go? Do you apply minimalism in that situation? Or is that maybe not appropriate? I don't know. Work, doing less work, but of a higher quality. I saw that idea come up. So again, I think it's an add-on philosophy. I don't think it is
a core
I don't think
way.
you can make all of your decisions in life that way. I think going as hardcore as some of the minimalists influencers, it seems like some areas of their life, they're adding a lot of inconvenience, which maybe causes more stress. And at what point is your effort to be a minimalist actually causing some problems? It's an invisible line that who knows where the line is of, okay, I've gone too far and now I'm adding more inconvenience to my life because I went with the if you can replace it in 20 minutes with $20, then get rid of it rule. Oh crap, I needed that the next day.
Yeah.
Now I got to go to Lowe's and buy a new hammer or whatever it is.
Right.
And if you are truly going in on minimalism, then there's just a lot of things that are like you have to let go of that might make life easier. All of the just in case items.
Yeah.
But just in case relationships, just in case clothes, so it's, to me, maybe to close this out, I think it's a good seasonal approach. Let it incorporate into the areas that are like obviously out of control. We're obviously buying too much stuff.
Yep.
Bring some minimalism into that. Create your own rules, maybe based on some of the general minimalists' ideas to control the inflow or balance it. So the one in, one out kind of thing. Get everything in your house to like, okay, this is a good amount of stuff. I'm not stressed out by how much cleaning I have to do or how much stuff is in this room and there's no place to put everything. Get to a balanced level and then put the one in, one out thing in place.
Yeah.
Maybe the week waiting period between buying something, over $100 or something, like the bigger stuff. I don't know. I think there's a lot of good that can be had by employing minimalism into buying stuff and digital minimalism. If your phone usage is out of control, I think you just have to kind of look at your life and say, okay, I need to use this minimalism tool
to scale back in certain
because my digital clutter has gone too far, or my house clutter has gone too far, or I have way too many work responsibilities. So I don't think it's a philosophy of life. I think it should be a tool to put into your tool belt of philosophies of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else on minimalism?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I think that covered it.
Okay. The one thing I do want to do is go hardcore on the minimalist wardrobe. Okay. I'm actually going to do that.
Let's do it.
Because I hate clothes. I like having nice clothes and wearing nice clothes. I like looking nice.
But you don't like thinking about it.
Well,
a lot. Like the mental fatigue of like looking in your closet and being like, oh,
yeah, I don't
want to wear. I don't,
I also hate shopping though. I hate trying on clothes. Okay. So I just want to have the capsule wardrobe.
Yeah.
Love every single item you have. So this is a place to invest on the nice sweatshirt that isn't going to shrink, fits you perfectly, and
will last a long time.
Spend $100 or whatever on the quality items that are going to last you, and that every time you get ready or every time you get dressed, you like what you're putting on.
Yeah.
And you only have, 3 choices based on the season.
Let's do it.
I'm going to do that.
I'll do it with you.
Great.
I'm serious.
Cool.
We're committing now.
All right. We'll report back on that, but that's one area that I would like to go hardcore minimalist on.
Okay. I have one final thought on this because it came up in one of the episodes of laundry. So it was like someone having a baby and they were like, do you get 3 burp cloths and do laundry constantly, or do you get 20 and not have to do it as often? Which one is more minimalist because of the time and other resources spent?
Do you minimize the time spent or minimize
the things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's a tricky one with clothes because it's like I have 1,000 t-shirts that I sleep in, but I don't do laundry very often.
It's customize it to your life. What do you have more time or do you have more space?
Right.
If you got more time, then buy fewer and do more laundry. If you have more space to store things and keep it out of the way, if you got a big closet and plenty of drawer space, then maybe get the extra stuff. So I think it's very customizable. That's one aspect of minimalism and back to the dark side of minimalism where everyone's getting critiqued for, well, you're not minimalist enough. Well, be the minimalist that works for you, or the level of minimalist that works for you. And if that's having more underwear because you're minimizing the time that you do laundry, then that's your choice. You can customize what areas and how you minimize things.
Okay.
So whatever works for you on that.
Cool.
So again, to tie it all together, minimalism, useful. I am into it, but I think it can easily go out of control and become almost cumbersome to be a minimalist if you don't just use it more as a balancing mechanism for life, not necessarily the focus to be a minimalist, because that's, I think, throws things off. That's what I got.
All right.
Sounds
good.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. And please tune in next week for another edition of A Million Ways to Live. Bye-bye.